pleasure to greet Miss Jean Ritchie, a very welcome return visitor to the world of folk music.
I've slung my guitar o'er my shoulder, and I've wandered this country around. And the tunes that I've heard in my journey have sung up a wonderful sound.
The World of Folk Music is brought to you each week at this time as a public service on behalf of the Social Security Administration. Today, Jean Ritchie joins your host, Oscar Brand, as we explore the world of folk music and learn about the protection you're building for yourself and your family through Social Security. Later in today's program, Roy Swift and Wallace Kendall of the Social Security Administration will tell World of Folk Music listeners about one of the major changes Congress recently made in the Social Security law. You'll learn some important facts about the new health insurance program called Medicare. First, though, let's have some music from Oscar Brand.
We come on the sloop John B., my grandfather and me. Round Nassau town we did go, drinking all night, got into a fight. I feel so break up, I wanna go home. So hoist up the John B. sails, see how the mainsail sets. Send for the captain ashore, let me go home. Oh, let me go home. Oh, let me go home. I feel so break up, I wanna go home. Now the first mate, he got drunk, he break up the people's trunk. Constable come aboard to take him away. Oh, Sheriff Johnstone, please leave me alone. I feel so break up, I wanna go home. So hoist up the John B. sails, see how the mainsail set. Send for the captain ashore, let me go home. Let me go home. Oh, let me go home. I feel so break up, I wanna go home. Now the cook, he had some fits, he throwed away all the grits, and next he went and threw away all of my corn. Oh, let me go home. Oh, let me go home. This is the worst trip since I've been born. So I stopped the John B. sails, see how the mainsail set. Sent for the captain ashore, let me go home. Oh, let me go home. Oh, let me go home. I feel so break up, I want to go home.
Despite the message of the John B. Sails, the old West Indian song, I don't really want to go home, because today's guest is an old friend, Jean Ritchie, who paid her first visit to the world of folk music when the program was only a few months old. Since then, she's been back a couple of times, and it's always fun to have her here because she's an old friend of ours as well as an expert on the folk music of her native Kentucky. Welcome, Jean. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Oscar. I'm very glad to come. You know, I always enjoy playing and singing.
Well, there's no time like the present, Jean. How about doing a bit of playing and singing right now?
So I'd like to pick one on the dulcimer for you now, I think. It's the whole homemade instrument that we make down in the mountains. It has 3 strings and sounds a bit like a cross between a bagpipes and a harpsichord, I guess is a good way to describe it. The play party games go very well on the dulcimer. I'd like to sing one for you now called Going to Boston. Goodbye, girls, I'm going to Boston. Goodbye, girls, I'm going to Boston. Goodbye, girls, I'm going to Boston early in the morning. Saddle up, girls, and let's go with 'em. Saddle up, girls, and let's go with 'em. Saddle up, girls, let's go with 'em early in the morning. Won't we look pretty in the ballroom? Won't we look pretty in the ballroom? Won't we look pretty in the ballroom early in the morning? Get out of the way, you'll get run over. Get out of the way, you'll get run over. Get out of the way, you'll get run over early in the morning. Won't we look pretty in the ballroom? Won't we look pretty in the ballroom? Won't we look pretty in the ballroom early in the morning? Swing your partner all the way to Boston. Swing your partner all the way to Boston. Swing your partner all the way to Boston early in the morning. Johnny, Johnny, gonna tell your pappy. Johnny, Johnny, gonna tell your pappy. Johnny, Johnny, gonna tell your pappy early in the morning. Won't we look pretty in the ballroom? Won't we look pretty in the ballroom? Won't we
the delightful play party song, Going to Boston, a very delightful performance from Gene Ritchie. Thank you, Gene. Time now for that important information we promised you before. Our experts, Roy Swift and Wallace Kendall, are going to tell you about one of the major changes Congress recently made in the Social Security law, a change that makes it possible for nearly every American 65 years of age or older to have health insurance protection.
Actually, Oscar, this program, which most people call Medicare, provides two kinds of health insurance protection beginning in July 1966. It provides hospital insurance to pay hospital bills and related services, and it provides medical insurance to help pay physicians' and surgeons' fees.
Oscar, here's how people 65 and over can qualify for both kinds of protection. If you're getting Social Security or railroad retirement benefits, you qualify automatically for hospital insurance. An application card for medical insurance will be mailed to you before the end of 1965 with a leaflet explaining both programs.
You just complete the application card if you want medical insurance and mail it in. You do not have to go to your Social Security office.
Roy, you've mentioned people who do not have to go to their Social Security office for health insurance. Now, Wallace, tell us who should.
If you're 65 or over and have never worked under Social Security, you'll want to apply for both kinds of protection, hospital and medical insurance. Since the law says you can't apply for medical insurance until September 1st, you might as well wait until then and apply for both kinds of protection at the same time.
Okay, Roy, Wallace has told us that people who have never worked under Social Security apply for both medical and hospital insurance after September 1st. But suppose you're 65 or older. You've worked under Social Security but are not getting Social Security benefits.
Then you should come into the Social Security office as soon as possible and apply for benefits. Some of you are going to be surprised to find out that you're eligible for cash benefits because of some changes in the Social Security law. This is especially true of men 76 years of age and women 73 years of age or older. These people may now get benefits if they've worked under Social Security for 3/4 of a year. And once you've applied, the package containing information and an application card for medical insurance will be sent to you before the end of 1965.
One final question, Roy. What about people who already have some kind of health insurance?
Well, I have a strong note of caution to these people, Oscar. None of the provisions of this new law goes into effect until July 1966. Therefore, do not, because of this law, cancel any health insurance you may now have. For more information about health insurance for the aged, ask the nearest Social Security office for a free copy of leaflet number 1. That's leaflet number 1.
Our thanks to Roy Swift and Wallace Kendall for providing this vital information for our listeners. And now, back to today's special guest, Gene Ritchie. You ready to sing and play some more, Gene?
All ready, Oscar. I'd like to sing one this time that's a change in mood from the last one we had, a play party. This is a very slow and beautiful love song called One I Love,
which happens to be such a great favorite of mine that our listeners may remember I sang it not long ago. I see your dulcimer's in position, Gene, so let's hear One I Love.
All of my friends fell out with me because I kept your company. But let them say whatever they will, I love my love with a free goodwill. One I love, two he loves, three he's true to me. They tell me he's poor, they tell me he's young. I tell them all to hold their tongue. If they could part the sand and the sea, then they might part my love and me. One I love, two he loves, three he's true to me. For when the fires to ice will turn, and when the icy seas will burn, and when those he's true to me. Over the mountains he must go, because his fortune is so low. With an aching heart and a troubled mind, for leaving his love so far behind. One I love, two he loves, three he's true to me.
Lovely rendition of One I Love from Jean Ritchie. Thank you, Jean, for joining us.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Oh, Jean, before you go, you've been singing us songs from Kentucky, which is where you're from. I'd like to sing you a song from Canada, which is where I'm from. This is a song about Saskatchewan. It's an old, old song, so we don't mind when it says terrible things about that province way out in the west.
Saskatchewan, the land of snow, where winds are always on the blow, where people sit with frozen toes, and why we stay here no one knows. Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan, we sit and gaze across the plain, and wonder why it never rains in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan. Our pigs are dying on their feet because they have no feed to eat. Our horses, though of bronco race, starvation stares them in the face. The milk from cows has ceased to flow. We had to ship them east, you know. Our hens are old and lay no eggs. Our turkeys eat grasshopper legs. Saskatchewan, the land of snow, where winds are always on the blow, where people sit with frozen toes, and why we stay here no one knows. But still we love Saskatchewan, we're proud to say we're a native one. So count your blessings drop by drop, next year we'll maybe get a crop. Saskatchewan, the land of snow, where winds are always on the blow, where people sit with frozen toe, and why we stay here no one knows.
The song of Saskatchewan, the land of snow. Of course, I don't believe that song, but then I'm from Winnipeg. Who knows what goes on out in the west? Well, I know it will go on, however, in just a little while. We'll be back again with the world of folk music.
I've slung my guitar o'er my shoulder, and I've wandered this country around. And the tunes that I've heard in my journey have sung up a wonderful sound.
The World of Folk Music, starring Oscar Brand, has been presented as a public service on behalf of your Social Security Administration to acquaint you with the benefits Social Security provides for you.
There's sadness and joy set to music, the story of life in a song. I guess we'll just keep on a-singing as we go a-traveling along.
Hi, this is Oscar Brand, inviting you to stay with us till the bitter end as the Bitter End Singers visit the world of folk music.
I've slung my guitar o'er my shoulder, and I've wandered this country around. And the tunes that I've heard in my journey have sung up a wonderful sound.
The World of Folk Music is brought to you each week at this time as a public service on behalf of the Social Security Administration. Today, the Bitter End Singers join your host, Oscar Brand, as we explore the world of folk music and learn about the protection you're building for yourself and your family through Social Security. Today, Social Security experts Roy Swift and Wallace Kendall are on hand with important information about the Medicare program, which recently became part of the Social Security law. Right now, though, it's time to hear some music from Oscar Brand.
There's the Cape Cart, the cart has a load. It's such a big load that it can't stay on the road. Around the bend, whoa, 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 around the bend we go. Around the bend, whoa, 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 take it slow. There's the Cape Cart, it's stopped on the road. It's filled with pretty maidens, and that's the heavy load. Oh, oh, their mind like that load, who will stay behind? We've got to find someone kind who will stay behind. Daar komt die wa, die wieper die wa. He het nam die, he moet ze nam nog krijgen. Takalankies vijs dat ik draai, daaronder in die baai. Takalankies vijs dat ik draai, daaronder in die baai. Ah, there's the Cape Cart, it's off down the road. The two-wheel Cape Cart, it hasn't such a load. For someone kind stayed behind, she wasn't hard to find. And so I too felt inclined, so I too stayed behind.
And that's Joseph Murray's translation of a South African song about a very, very speedy cart. And by the way, our guests for today have been enjoying one of the speediest ascents in this ever-changing world of folk music. Formed only a year or two ago, they played everywhere, from the White House in Washington, D.C. to the Greenwich Village coffee house that gave them their name, and the name is the Bitter End Singers. Individually, their names are...
Hi, Oscar. I'm Vilma Vaccaro. I'm Nancy Pretty.
I'm Tina Bowman.
I'm Bruce Farwell.
Lefty Baker here.
I'm Joe Hunt.
I'm Kenny Hodges.
6 voices, assorted guitars and banjos, and something new, a drummer. Yes, friends, the beat rears its head as folk meets rock. Ken, tell us more.
Oscar, our first song is an old folk song we picked up a while back, one of Lead Belly's. It's been done down through the years by a whole series of singers, and so as a result of this, we work very hard, both day and night, to remove what is known in the business as the nasal twang from this next song.
Name of this song is called Good Night, Irene. Hit it.
Saturday night I got married. Me and my wife settled down. Now me and my wife are parted. I'm gonna take a little stroll downtown.
Downtown, Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
Sometimes I live in the country. Sometimes I live in a town. Yeah, sometimes I take a great notion to jump in the river and drown.
Irene, good night.
Bitter End Singers having some good-natured fun with Goodnight Irene. Now, once again, it's time to hear from Roy Swift and Wallace Kendall about the recent changes in the Social Security law. Roy, everybody's been buzzing us about Medicare. How about it?
Actually, Oscar, this amendment to the Social Security law, which so many people call Medicare, provides two kinds of health insurance protection beginning in July 1966. It provides hospital insurance to pay hospital bills and related services, and then it provides medical insurance to help pay physicians' and surgeons' fees. Now, if you're getting Social Security or railroad retirement benefits, you qualify automatically for hospital insurance. An application card for the voluntary medical plan will be mailed to you before the end of this year with information on both programs. To sign up for medical insurance, you just fill out the application and mail it in. The $3 a month premium for the medical plan will be deducted from your Social Security check.
What about if you've never worked under Social Security?
Well, then you should get in touch with your Social Security office now. Someone there will be happy to help you apply for both kinds of protection.
Roy, how can our listeners get more information about the new health insurance programs?
Just ask at your nearest Social Security office for a free copy of leaflet number 2. That's leaflet number 2.
Wallace, it's your turn. I've got a letter here from a man who's still working and getting Social Security benefits. He wants to know how the new law affects him.
Beginning in 1966, if you earn no more than $1,500 in a year, you can still get a Social Security check just as if you were fully retired. If you make more than $1,500 in a year, your benefits will be reduced. But no matter what your total earnings are for the year, you will get a check for every month in which you do not earn over $125, or if you are self-employed, you do little or no work in your own business. Of course, none of this applies if you're 72 years of age or older. Then you will get a benefit check every month, no matter what you make for the year.
How can our listeners get more information about this change and all the other important improvements in the Social Security law?
Just ask at your nearest Social Security office for a free copy of leaflet number 1. It has the basic facts you need to know.
Thank you, gentlemen. Time once again now to hear from the Bitter End Singers. Pretty Nancy Pretty speaks, then they all sing.
This next song was written by a good friend of ours, Bobby Andriani, and it is our latest release. It's called King Lonely the Blue.
If I were a king, like the kings of old, and I had a castle that was made out of gold, if I could have anything that I wanted to, I wouldn't have anything if I didn't have you. And they call me King Lonely the Blue.
King Lonely the Blue. That's the sound of the bitter end singers. Thanks, gang, for being with us.
Thanks, Oscar.
Thank you.
We thank them, they thank us, and then I get to thank the vaudeville stage for this next song, our closing song today. Well, let's say it isn't exactly a song. Of course, it isn't a speech either. I don't know I guess you'd call it a sermon. Yes, a sermon about a poor young man.
There was a poor young man, and he came to the big wicked city to find himself a lucrative position befitting his talents. And he hunted all the employment agencies, but he was nearly frightened to death when at last he got a job in a stone quarry with all the other college graduates. Well, when his work was over that day, they lured him into a saloon, and they tried to tempt him with a glass of beer. But he promised his dear old mother that he would never imbibe, and that lips would never touch a glass containing any hard spirits. Well, they laughed at him and they sneered. And they called him a coward. Till at last, he clutched and drank a glass of beer. When he seen what he had done, he dashed the glass upon the floor and staggered into the street with delirium tremens. Now the first person he met was a Salvation Army girl, and with one kick he broke her tambourine. And when she seen what he had done, she placed a mark upon his brow with a kick that she had learned before she was saved. Now the moral of this story is, shun that fateful glass and don't go around kicking people's tambourines.
And that was the story of the poor young man. I hope you were listening, and I hope you gained from the hearing of that song. I certainly did. And it's not autobiographical either, because I certainly am not a poor young man. I'm a very happy young man, happy that I'll be able to see you again once more on the World of Folk Music.
I've slung my guitar o'er my shoulder, and I've wandered this country around. And the tunes that I've heard in my journey have sung up a wonderful sound.
The World of Folk Music, starring Oscar Brand, has been presented as a public service on behalf of your Social Security Administration to acquaint you with the benefits Social Security provides for you.
There's sadness and joy set to music, the story of life in a song. I guess we'll just keep on a-singin' as we go a-travelin' along.